I'm Carl Kalbfleisch, my wife Mandy, and our journey was we had Mandy had some health concerns that led us to look for like eating organic, farm raised, grass-fed beef and stuff like that, and it seemed like it actually helped, and we had some improved health because of it. But if you fast forward a few years from there, there's a Facebook post that she made September 20th, 2012, said, "Watching forks over knives, my sweet husband is not going to like this." I can be a little snarky at times. My response was, "I don't mind if you watch it." In 2016, I had 2 knee surgeries. Was close to 245 pounds, and couldn't exercise, really couldn't do much of anything. It was very disheartening. After my dad had died at 75 of Parkinson's, my grandfather both had diabetes. Grandmother had Alzheimer's. My mom died of Alzheimer's, had diabetes. Both my sisters have diabetes. And I knew that where I was with my weight, that I was heading for a train wreck, and I didn't want to get there. So I was looking for how to lose weight. So I was like, okay, I have these knee surgeries. Now I can just, doctor was just saying, well, diet and exercise, but he didn't tell me, what that meant. I mean, they don't tell you what is good diet or anything like that. I don't think he knew. And so I went to the gym, I started exercising, I lost about 15 pounds, and then 6 months later I was like completely plateaued. And so I started doing my own research and eventually lost about 80 pounds, close to 80 pounds. So there's a picture of me from last, September, I think, with 9 gallons of water representing the weight that I had lost. We've been out of town, so I don't have any copies of this brochure with me, but over time, as people would ask me, well, because people who see me now, they just know me like this. People who knew me 3 years ago, like Susan Christensen, knew me like this picture inside here. And what I get is,
do you have cancer?
Yeah. How did you lose so much weight? So I wrote this little trifold about a year ago, but we've been out of town, so I didn't have a chance to make any copies of it. But if you go on our website, it's Journey to 100. So Journey to TO and then the number 100 and beyond.com. And if you go there /CWK, it has the text of this with the pictures and the video. And so really what we found was just the plant-based diet was very helpful, and we've been following that now for I think about 20 months. And Mandy's been very supportive in that, and has learned a lot of new ways of cooking. And then we eventually got to where the journey to 100 came from, is that as we were both losing weight, we realized that we would eventually lose 100 pounds combined. And of course, that wasn't the goal to stop there, so that's where the and beyond comes in. But then Mandy has some very interesting and exciting news in her own health that she'll share with you too.
So started out, he came home and he's like, "I'm not eating sugar." I'm like, okay, well, what do I do with that, right? Sugar's in everything. So I go to the store and I'm like, how am I gonna feed him? Because look at, okay, pasta. Oh, there's sugar in the sauce. Oh, ketchup, there's sugar. So having to figure that out and really learning how to read the labels and go, okay, how do I do this without any sugar? And so that kind of started our plant-based journey to being able to eat without any oil, without any sugar, without any plants. And so I would say 10 years ago, I had a lot of, as he said, a lot of health issues. I had to have a hysterectomy. I had to have some fluid drained off my ovaries. Had my gallbladder removed. I was just really not healthy at all. And in the midst of all of that, even after all those surgeries, they still couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Well, it turns out I was diagnosed with celiac disease. had no idea what that even was, but celiac is basically it's an autoimmune disorder that basically your body does not process gluten, which is wheat, oat, barley, and rye. So if you think about, well, what do you eat with that? And at the time we weren't plant-based. And so and even just a speck of like, if my kid had regular bread and cut it and then spread peanut butter on it, put the knife back in the peanut butter, that whole jar is what we would call gluten. So like that whole jar was off limits for me. Like I couldn't, and I had to go buy new pans because the gluten gets up underneath the rivets in your pans, and so we couldn't share pans. And so it was a long journey of like, when we would travel, I had to take my own pans because I couldn't, if we stayed in an Airbnb, you couldn't use those pans. So we had this whole big thing of how we could travel. Well, we've been plant-based, I guess, about
20 months.
20 months, and I had my physical like a month and a half, I guess, ago. And I said to my doctor, hey, I'm just kind of curious. We're going to draw this blood. Can you draw the celiac panel, which is a series of blood tests, and see what happens? Because I had the positive test and I had the positive biopsy. So I just said, I'm just curious what it's going to be. And he's like, sure, no problem. So he drew the blood, and he called me. He was like, so do you have those positive test results? And I'm like, well, I'm sure I have them somewhere. I mean, let's flip them in our medical record. He goes, I'm like, why? And he goes, because your test is negative, completely negative. And so I was like, okay. So a lot of people will say, well, when you haven't had gluten, it's easy to have negative tests, right? So I'm like, okay, well, let's really put it to the test. So both of our kids were in town, so we went down to Twisted Root, and I ordered, they have a vegabond burger, but I ordered it with a regular bun, which I would not have touched. And I got fried pickles, which is something that I really missed. And I was like, okay, we're gonna document this. If I get sick, it'll take about 15 minutes and I will know. So I ate it, we set the timer, 15 minutes went by, nothing. 20 minutes went by, nothing. 30 minutes went by, nothing. The night went by, nothing. So like, okay, so the next day I was like, okay, well, let's try it again. Had some more, nothing. I am now able to eat basically anything, and I have zero reaction to it.
I thought if you were celiac forever.
So eating plant-based has allowed my body to heal itself of having celiac. And so I've done a lot of talking to a couple of other plant-based doctors that I know, and they basically said that by eating plant-based, you can actually turn your genes off and on. And so by eating plant-based, I was able to turn the celiac gene off and the healthy gene on. And so now I no longer have celiac. So It's been amazing. So.